take on the billionaire class.
We must build an American economy that works for all of us.
I believe we should break up the large banks. Hillary.
Good evening and welcome to the fabulous Fox Theater in downtown Detroit, the site of the 11th Republican presidential debate of the 2016 campaign. I'm Megyn Kelly, along with my co-moderators, Brett Baer.
In South Carolina, the polls are closing right now. The early leaders right now in South Carolina and the second-tier candidates. CNN projects Donald Trump, the billionaire real estate magnate, will win the South Carolina Republican primary.
He's getting nearly half the votes here in the Myrtle Beach area of Horry County. It's a big population center. It's nearly 6% of the state population. He's getting near 50%.
Hey guys, welcome back to the third episode of my discussion-based series on fixing American democracy. We are truly and slowly but surely reimagining the U.S.'s political system and our elections for decades to come. And in this third episode, I'm going to be talking about the many different types of primary elections that each of the states use when it comes to presidential, House, and Senate and governor primary elections. And I'm going to be, and then at the end of the third episode, I'm going to be sharing where my overall opinion of what primary system the U.S. should use overall in all states and in all elect positions that each candidate is running for. So let's begin, shall we? And in the first primary that is very typical in some states like Delaware, Florida, Kentucky, Maryland, Nevada, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Pennsylvania use are closed primaries, which means closed primaries is where primaries are completely locked to their each party member. So that means Republican Party members can only vote in Republican primaries, Democrats can only vote in Democratic primaries, Libertarians can vote only in Libertarian primaries, and Green Party members can only vote in Green Party primaries. That's what the whole purpose of a closed primary is. It's strictly for party members only. And that's been used in at least 9 states, which are Delaware, Florida, Kentucky, Maryland, Nevada, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Pennsylvania. As well, another primary system that both Alaska, Connecticut, Idaho, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Utah use are partially closed primaries, which means parties can choose whether or not to allow unaffiliated voters or voters not registered with a party to participate in their primary in their nominating contest between the different parties' candidates that they're running to see who will be their nominee that will represent their party in the general election. As well, in a partially open primary, this permits voters to cross party lines, but they must either publicly declare their ballot choice or their party selection may be regarded as a form of registration with the corresponding party. And overall, just 6 states only use it, which are Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Ohio, Tennessee, and Wyoming. They use partially open primaries, which means that voters are permitted to cross party lines, and they must either publicly declare their ballot choice, or their ballot selection may be regarded as a form of registration with that corresponding party. As well, another primary system that other states use, that a couple of other states use, are open to unaffiliated voters primaries, which are Arizona, Colorado, Kansas, the state of Maine, the state of Massachusetts, the state of New Hampshire, the state of New Jersey, Rhode Island, and West Virginia. And with this type of primary system open to unaffiliated voters, independents can participate in any party's primary they choose. But this does not allow voters who are registered with one party to vote in another party's primary. And even there's also open primaries, which means voters can choose privately in which primary they can vote for. And the states that use open primaries are Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Hawaii, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, North Dakota, South Carolina, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, and Wisconsin. As well, even in my home state of California, California uses a primary system, which is essentially like an open primary, and they use it for governor, House elections, and Senate elections, even in state assembly races and state senate races, um, which is known as excluding, but they don't use it for they do not use it for presidential primaries. That remains with Republicans can run their own little primaries for president, including Democrats, but Democrats allow independents and Republicans do not to vote in their primary. And this primary system is called a top two primary system, or also known as a jungle primary, which means all voters, all candidates from different parties all run in the same primary, and the top two vote getters advance to the general election, and it's regardless of party. Meaning, you can get two Republicans to be on the ballot and to face off in the general election. You might get two Democrats to face off in the general election, and as well. California is not the only one that uses it. Actually, the state of Washington also used it as well. They held it in the 2020 Washington governor's race. As well, even the state of Louisiana also does it, but they do it a little bit differently than California and Washington. How they do it, still, like all the candidates from the different parties are running the same primary, and if one candidate in that one primary reaches 50%, well, that candidate wins, and there's no need for a runoff. But if neither candidate doesn't receive 50% or technically a majority of the vote in that governor's race, like in Louisiana, the prime example of that was back in the 2019 Louisiana governor race, where Eddie Raspone and John Bel Edwards, where John Bel Edwards did not get 50%, and the top two vote getters, Eddie Raspone, I might pronounce the name wrong, and John Bel Edwards, both were the top two vote getters, and they both faced off in the general election, and I think I would say like maybe 6 weeks later, there will be a runoff election in Louisiana, but that's how Louisiana does it. It's kind of a little bit. It's a lot differently than what California does, as well. Overall, like as you may know, this pretty much aligns with what presidential primary rules are. The primaries can differ in all states, meaning states can absolutely be their primary systems can be radically different from other states. Like for instance, like in Iowa, when it comes to president, they don't use an actual primary to nominate their presidential candidates during a primary. They use a caucus system, and which is pretty much with a caucus is that people all come to a room, and they what was it in a caucus compared to a primary, they have both people move to this side of the room, to this side of the room, and to the other side of the room, and if one candidate if one candidate has just few voters, then that candidate's out of the race, and it's pretty much like a town hall type style thing when it comes to a caucus. But overall, my overall opinion of how primary elections are, that I think the superior primary election overall, to be honest, is actually closed party primaries. To be honest, I think that's a better primary system overall, because I think the problem with these open primaries is that it's going to lead to Democrats. It's going to lead to one party hijacking another party's primary so they can nominate an incredibly weak candidate. So their candidate that they really want to win can face off with an incredibly weak candidate. I think that's going to really make our elections very less competitive overall. And it happened in the 2018 California gubernatorial race, where Governor Gavin my governor, Governor Gavin Newsom, when he was the gubernatorial candidate in the 2018 California governor's race, he didn't want to face Anthony Vigorosa because he wanted an easy race. So that means he wanted to face off with a conservative candidate, John Cox, because he knew that he would be a weaker candidate, so he can easily win. That's the one thing why I do not like the whole open primary things. As well, even in 2018 California Senate race, um, there was only 2 Democrats appeared on the ballot. I'm honestly for completely strict closed primaries, meaning the Republicans vote in their own primaries, Democrats vote in their own primaries, Green parties vote in their own primaries, Libertarians vote in their own primaries. And I get it. But I understand independents may. There's way more registered independents than there are registered Republicans. But I overall think primaries should just be parties nominating their candidates, and the independent voters, people who are registered independent, they just have to wait until the general election to decide who they will vote for in the general election. Because to be honest, I'm all for like these closed primaries. Let the parties decide who they're going to nominate to represent that party in the general election, and overall, I think closed primaries are a better system because after all parties primaries are over, I think you're going to see a lot more competitive and free and fair, like a lot more competitive elections, because you're going to have all candidates that have different ideologies, different parties platforms, and different ideas all competing for for the position that they're running for, like mayor, city council, state assembly, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary, the secretary of state, like maybe of California or Texas, or even running for U.S. Senate, U.S. senator, House representative, and even in overall in the highest office in the land, which is the presidency. I just feel like you're going to have a lot more different ideologue candidates, and I think that's important for democracy in a general election. Not have candidates that have the same ideas. I think we should always have candidates. I think we should all general elections should just be about candidates from different parties all competing for that one position. I don't think it should never be about one. Um, general elections should never be about candidates from this. But 2 candidates from the same party competing in a general election. I just don't agree with that because that makes our elections less competitive. But overall, just let me hear what you guys think overall about the different primary systems. Do you agree with me that we should use a closed primary system? Or do you disagree with me on that? Tell me why in the comment section below. But don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, this is the Young Centrist, and I am out.